Welcome back to our second hour, the number 1, 2, or 3 podcast in the nation on politics every night now with over 29 million downloads. Of course, remember, that's just the fifth method of distribution. We're on Real America's Voice. We're on Dish Channel 219, Comcast Channel 113, John Fredericks Radio Network nationwide, Rumble, every different type of distribution platform. And to top it all off, we are translated into Mandarin for the Chinese diaspora and also blown through the firewall into mainland China with G News and GTV. Maybe we got to start blowing through the firewall in the United States of America, right? With the tech oligarchs, big media. Disgraceful performance of CNN. Disgraceful. Okay, now I want to bring in, you had 10 people the other day, 10 Republicans elected with your hard work, your money, and drafting off President Trump that stood up and voted to impeach him with limited information and a rush to judgment. And we're going to prove that. We're working nonstop to show what the facts are. This rush to judgment was outrageous and will be a black mark on our country, right? Impeachments are supposed to be used for something serious, not in this highly politicized, highly partisan operation. And so the key is that the 10 have got to be primaried and they've got to be defeated. And I think the best thing to do is get great candidates up there and primary them now. And what we're going to do is provide a platform for that. So if you're thinking of being a candidate, if you're real and you're dedicated, so political operatives out there, give us a call. We'd love to platform guys, et cetera. And we're very honored. I think they have the first guy out of the box, Tom Norton. It's Congressman Meyer, and I believe he's from the Meyer, the grocery store family Meyer. I believe he's been here in like 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, in his judgment, right, representing a district that was overwhelmingly Trump, can decide to impeach President of the United States and send it to trial in the Senate, where, if convicted, one could have led to his removal from office in the last couple of days of his administration. But number two, could lead to him losing Secret Service, losing his presidential library, losing his intelligence, his security clearance, so he can't get classified briefings, so he can't talk to foreign leaders. And most importantly, that he could not run again, technically, now this got to be litigated, but can't run again in 2024, essentially purging him from the political process. So now we have Tom Norton that stepped forward. He lost in the primary to Meyer, and then supported him as a good guy, supported him and actively campaigned for him in the general election. Tom, why have you decided, tell people about your background first, but then why have you decided to come forward so quickly and say that you've got to primary the congressman?
Well, I am an Afghanistan war veteran and small business owner. I've actually worked my way from the ground up. But the reason why I am running it against Peter Meyer is on Monday, Peter was talking to me about this impeachment, and he hadn't made a decision yet. And I said, Peter, if you impeach him, we're going to have to go down this road again. Because I did actively work for him after running against him in the primary. He spent $2.2 million. We spent $160,000, and we performed extremely well. We scared the living tar out of him with very little money. So if people contribute to us, we'll be able to really destroy him this time on it. And then on the morning of the impeachment vote, he called me and said, Tom, you may have to put your website back up. I am voting for impeachment. And when I tell people that, hey, you can vote for Meyer, you can trust him, that's my integrity on the line. And I am not going to have my integrity questioned. The other part is voting for impeachment. The Constitution of the United States, the first 10 amendments, a majority of them have to do with due process of law. And the way they did this impeachment in 72 hours is a direct violation of due process. And there is no stretch of the imagination of that. We need to actually restore the Constitution before what little is left of it is gone. This is a violation of the concept of a republic as a whole.
Tom, just for fairness, did you explain this to Congressman Meyer in your conversations with him before he took this vote? Did you explain those problems you had with due process and what this was a rush to judgment and kind of it reminded us of the Moscow show trials of the 1930s under Stalin?
I did express that point of view very, very directly. So that was expressed. There was other parts of the conversation, but when he called me in the morning, he said he couldn't look himself in the mirror if he did not vote for impeachment, and he did relay that in the press. So That's stuff that anything that he says in the press is the only thing that I will divulge from that.
He's kind of heightened the things. I know, look, the good people up in Michigan, they're tremendous patriots, have served their country. You got a lot of veterans up there. You're a veteran. The thing he came out with the next day, though, kind of threw gasoline on the fire, said that he feels he's got to buy, I think he said he's purchased bulletproof vest because of threats he's getting. Is that remind you of people in your district or people up in that district like that?
The majority of people in our district are not like that, but you do have people that sit there and threaten him, but that's not a controlling of the overwhelming majority. We're not Antifa. We're not the far left. We're not burning cities and shooting cops and little African-American children. We don't do that as conservatives. We believe that every person can advance in a free and safe society. So, I mean, if he's getting threats, then he may feel incredible. But that is not representative of the 3rd District whatsoever. And I would tell anybody, do not threaten anybody's life whatsoever. We are a peaceful nation, and we can take back a republic, but we have to fight hard as heck.
No, I think Congressman Meyer ought to turn those over to the authorities. Anybody that's putting a threat on a congressman for a vote, no matter how much you dislike that vote, should be visited by authorities immediately, right? You can't have that. You got to win these. And we can win. We're winning. No need to revert to violence. You're winning. So, Tom, tell people how they get access to you, how they get access to social media, how they get access to whatever, and they can make their own judgment. But how they get access to you, because I think this race will be nationalized pretty quickly, because I think there's a lot of interest around there of people, particularly in the Trump movement, just don't figure out, and particularly this one, a guy that was there for a couple of weeks, right? Loves Trump one day, but then there for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So 30 days. So how do people get access to you? How do they get to your sites?
Go to www.tom.gop. Again, www.tom.gop. Contribute. If you got 9 million people watching this podcast and everybody contributes, we will destroy him overnight. We have the ability to do this. Every person contributing. It's time that we fight back, take back this country, verify the vote. You cannot run a campaign saying that you're going to primary challenge Justin Amash because he's going to impeach the president, and 10 short days later do exactly that with no due process in the Constitution.
Have you actually called out for the congressman to debate you, or trying to have a series of debates? Are you trying to have a series of town halls? How are you going to actually push your candidacy forward since we're 2 years away from the election? How are you going to do it?
We're going to keep doing it. We'll do debates. I have asked him because I did call him and say that I was going to file. So then, out of just respect, he had called me that morning and warned me I may have to put up the website and said I'd put it back up, and we're doing this. And I have challenged him to Lincoln Douglas-style debates one-on-one, and I am more than willing to do that. I'm certain that he may be willing to do that. A fundamental debate in the Republican Party about our principles. Are we going to stand for the Constitution and the Republic, or are we going to fold to the far left?
Tom, thank you very much for joining us. Tom Norton, he's announced he's going to primary Congressman Meyer up there in Michigan 3. Okay, and anybody that knows anybody that's trying to threaten the congressman's got to be they've got to be turning right away. What Tom Norton's going to do is get on the hustings and go debate this guy and expose him for the phony he is, because he's a phony. 10 days into it to vote for impeachment when he ran against basically Amash was the crazy libertarian that was always trying to impeach the president. Okay, let's go back to let's talk about intelligence. This all has to be declassified. They've started, and John Solomon at Real America's Voice and Just the News, his site, have done an incredible job. But the declassification, this is just the appetizers, right? We haven't gotten down to the dinner. So Raheem, Jack, tell me why is it taking so long? What do we need to see, and why are they not doing it quicker?
By the way, I don't even think this is the appetizers yet. This is just pulling up at the restaurant and getting a good parking spot, right? This is the drop that we heard last night from John Solomon at Just the News. He did a 9-minute podcast just to relay the information he was hearing as information began to be declassified yesterday, and he reported that Fiona Hill, who I think most of the audience will remember from the impeachment process, who was supposed to be one of these dispassionate, disconnected academic types who's just, rises above it all.
She was a witness.
She was a witness. In fact, she was one of their star witnesses, let's be honest. She comes in there with that English accent and gives that sense of sort of gravity about the international nature of all of this. Hey, we were trying to stop the president from doing this stuff in Ukraine. Well, it turns out, at least as John Solomon is alleging from this declassification, is that Fiona Hill was the person who actually introduced Christopher Steele, who put that dodgy dossier together, to his source, to that subsource, which is the person who obviously, for whatever reason and on whoever's dime, was facilitating information that turned out to be not just a little bit incorrect, but totally pulled out of thin air. And that, again, is just the first little nugget that we got last night of what's being declassified in all of this stuff.
Well, and there's some things he can do very easily, Steve, and I think it will be illustrative about this whole notion of trust the government. I think that he should totally release all of the FBI files. He delayed that just a few months ago. There should be no trouble whatsoever. That should just be handing over the key and unlocking the box. And I think that people will see that. And all of these things together, I think, raise questions about this idea of always trust what they tell you. You've said it many times before. They were wrong in the national defense assessments for the Soviet Union all the way up till 1989. They said they were cleaning our clock. So I think it's time for the American people to see the evidence and make their own assessment about their government.
There's more, by the way. You've got Comey, you've got Clapper, you've got Brennan, you've got all these guys that should just release all of it. Okay, but you've also got additional stuff, Raheem. What else? Kennedy. You got the Kennedy files.
Oh, yeah.
You have much more up there that the president has been working on. The UFO files. I mean, the other UFO files have been pointed out. Listen. Listen.
The thing that crossed my mind right there is what Madeline Peltz's headline's going to be.
I was not a UFO guy, but I got to tell you, when Naval Air starts putting out Navy combat pilots starts putting out stuff in the gun sight, you know they're getting ready to drop some bad information on you. So let's just get it all out, so you don't have conspiracy theories.
He's looking at UFO.
Go ahead, Jack.
Give us that.
No, that's actually true. In addition to, and of course, everybody's asking me who's going to pardon. Is he going to pardon Assange, Snowden, Ulbricht, etc.? Actually, one of the things that I got from a source at the White House just recently was that the president actually is looking at declassifying a lot of program information on UFOs. Specifically stuff that goes all the way back to 50s, 60s. There's Central Intelligence Agency programs in there, sightings, and a lot of these, Steve, to your point, sightings and reports that were made by the pilots of U.S. military aircraft.
Yeah.
So these are people who are trained. They know what they're doing. They know what to look for. And more importantly, they know how aircraft are supposed to be able to maneuver, and they know if something looks not right.
This is, Jack, you know this being naval intelligence. My kid brother's a Navy pilot. I was a surface warfare officer. But the guys in Maine that get picked up and onto things, hey, that's whatever it is. When you have Navy pilots that are showing you gun sight footage, and the Navy pilots are talking amongst themselves, I can't see that far.
Breaking news, Twitter has just locked my account.
Has locked your account.
Literally just now.
Yeah, they got to lock your account.
As I've been sharing this information about John Sullivan.
But John Sullivan's account's not locked.
Nope.
Okay, Dorsey. That's just another
Jack,
thing.
can you tweet about that, please?
By the way, that's just another thing to the lawsuit. That's just another element to the lawsuit.
Yeah, send me the message.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. Posobiec will be back with us. Michael Yon's in studio. Raheem Kassam just got locked out of Twitter, so nothing for him to do now. Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon. We're going to be back. We're going to talk about the impeachment. By the way, Schumer, bring the trial on. Bring it. Remember, there are more tears shed for answered prayers than for unanswered. Just remember that. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to be back in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, yes, Christiane. I mean, clearly we have a crisis underway, a political, a democratic crisis, even a constitutional and a succession crisis, completely manufactured, as you've been pointing out, and many others have as well. I have in an interview in the last day or so, called this an attempted coup. I mean, really what this is a self-coup, something that was operating over a longer time frame in plain sight.
Concerned about
Well, yes,
is there 17 Republicans, because it takes 67 to convict. I hope now that we have we have no control over that. It's being sent to us, as I'm understanding, on the 19th. Now, I've heard that we could start as early as the 20th or the 21st on this trial.
By the 20th or 21st, we guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, with your assistance and crowdsourcing, helping us with information, it'll be in front of these guys that it's very low probability they're going to have 17 Republicans that would stand up to convict. And here's the reason. They're not going to want to hear the evidence that's out there about agent provocateurs and others. And also, they don't want to hear the information. Fiona Hill, who worked with Steele or helped Steele on the dossier now, as we understand, right, according to the podcast, and the declassification. This is why it's got to be more of it. Attempted coup, are you kidding me? Ma'am, don't think so. Homie, don't think so. Okay? Just look at the evidence. Don't spin me with your rhetoric. Look at the evidence. Jack Posobiec, you see the president's overnights are coming up. Overall, it's 48% approval with the best tracking poll you got out there. Walk us through where you think we are with all of this.
Well, Steve, the establishment right now is trying to use this show of force at the Capitol and trying to lock in this media narrative, this completely over-the-top narrative of domestic terrorism in effort to hold on to the final people that are still listening to them and still believing them. Look, I know people in the D.C. area that are canceling appointments out in the suburbs in Virginia and Maryland because they're worried that people in red hats are going to come and be committing indiscriminate terror attacks. Right? That's how bad it is for CNN viewers right now. That's how bad they're being gaslit. And you played the montage at the beginning of the show there to really explain that to people. The problem is there are so many people now that are checking out of it. They're completely checked out of that program. They're completely checked out because they see the agenda. They know it's not a pro-freedom agenda. It's not a pro-people agenda. And that is why you are starting to see now the president's polls tracking up. Because, look, you impeach a guy one time, yeah, maybe he did something wrong. You impeach a guy two times, it says more about you than it does about him.
I want to remind people, we listened to Fiona Hill just a few moments ago talking about the insurrection and how the president is a danger to the United States. And she's held up to us as this objective, Harvard-educated woman who would never have an opinion that might dictate some of her maneuvers. Let's not remember that on November 11th, 2016, just a few days after the last election, she wrote an article in the Brookings Institute paper, and I'm just going to read the first paragraph because it lets you know exactly where she stands. This is before the president, Donald Trump, was even sworn in.
This is 72 hours after he won.
72 hours after he won. This is in the Brookings Institute magazine. The U.S. election came hot on the heels of the 99th anniversary of the Russian Revolution. The result was the contemporary American version of a Bolshevik revolution. Donald Trump rode a wave of popular anger against the establishment, promising to bring down the old guard and seize the White House. Like Bolsheviks, his campaign was big on slogans and short on content. It goes on further, but I am so sorry. None of this was ever brought up when she was, there before the Senate and the House talking about, oh, well, I would never do anything to harm the national security of America. This is nonsense, Fiona. Look, you were against the president before anybody even came up with impeachment, and then somehow you just fell, a little square peg through a little square hole, and you found your place right in the impeachment thing. But you were planning that from day one, madam.
Was it? I think it was. She would.
That was an amazing impression, by the way.
Madeline Peltz could be all over that.
I thought she was there. I thought it was here on the show.
let's just, in fairness, let's just remember, I think it was McMaster's. She was hired to work in the National Security Council of the president over there at the apparatus. So, Jack, Closing thoughts. I know we're going to lose you. Closing thoughts on where we stand in the investigation, agent provocateurs, more information, and since we pride ourselves in tomorrow's news today, tell us at 1 o'clock. And I think maybe it's Ray's going to stand up there, right? I would assume. So you've got all this breaking news about how he's briefing the president. Walk us through what's going to happen at 1.
Well, I do know that Ray called the president yesterday. They spoke in the Oval Office about this. And what I was told was that he said to the president that they are pursuing information that Sullivan did not act alone. Last night, I read through these Discord leaks. Discord, for people who don't know, is a sort of private chat app with chat rooms that has it's sort of invite only. You can set it up that way. And so in those chats, you can see him discussing with other people infiltration of the crowd, identifying where they were in the crowd, talking about it afterwards.
But hang on a second. Yesterday was the 14th of January. The director of the FBI has a major reveal. Here's his reveal. Sullivan is an Antifa guy, is a known professional provocateur who, by the way, it's already been indicted, correct me, already been indicted in Utah for the situation out there that took place in June, where a guy died that he filmed, did the whole thing here. All that's known. He's known at organizing. He's known he's put out the flyers at the 11th. On the 14th, Ray calls the president. I got breaking news for you. I got real information. Oh, that you could send on War Room when Steve and Rudy got into it the other day when Rudy's a little premature and putting it out. But 48 hours ago, I got breaking news for you, Mr. President. This guy Sullivan, here's what we know. He's working with other people. We got a big reveal for you. This is what phonies they are. You're telling me they didn't know about this on Sullivan on the 4th and 5th, on the 1st and 2nd of January. Jack Dorsey, he put out a direct threat to the President of the United States on your apparatus called Twitter. The same one you just blocked Raheem Kassam in this show because he's putting out information you don't like. He's putting out the truth. This is a total and complete scam. And here's the thing. The common sense, the grit, the understanding and determination of the American people will not be thwarted by you. We're going to have some bad days, but it will not be thwarted by you. That's why the president's at 51.7% in the overnight Rasmussen. That's why he's trending at 48% of approval with the biggest beatdown I've ever seen of anyone at any place in any time. Because the American people are sitting there going, like right now, why is Washington, D.C. a green zone? And Steve Doocy, instead of crying, you ought to start asking some hard questions. Fox, although your numbers are imploding, you've got good people over there, including yourself and your son, who happens to be the new White House correspondent. Why don't you step up and start asking some hard questions? What's driving all this? Is this a psyop? Is this information warfare? Brother Posobiec, Raheem, jump in. Let's Posobiec before you leave. Tell us your closing thoughts.
Jack, you figured out why, perhaps potentially why they suspended me, right? I think it was for telling the time?
Yeah, I was scrolling down through your Twitter, and there was a tweet about how in the middle of the night, the military arrived, and it was the dead of night when the electors were certified, and now there's not going to be anyone there. That was your tweet, essentially, what you said.
What I said was, and it's on the screen here, they intend to inaugurate a president to an empty national mall surrounded by 20,000 troops after a victory claimed in the dead of night and a certification of electors in the dead of night. # democracy dies in darkness.
Such a great heckle.
No wonder they blocked you.
Gotta love that. Posobiec, give us your closing thoughts. I know we're going to lose you.
We're seeing one of the largest psychological operations in U.S. history right now. We're living through it.
A psychological operation put on by, who's putting it on, Mr. Jack Posobiec? You're a naval officer, naval intelligence officer, sir.
You are seeing the establishment, the elites, the powers that be in both parties combining to shut down the MAGA movement, shut down what they view as a populist uprising of deplorables. They do not want this to go any further. And because they know they don't have anything better, they're using raw, naked power to literally shut down with military force the nation's capital, and then also to put gags on the supporters through social media, and then shut down people from being able to be even discuss this beyond anything other than domestic terrorism.
Jack Posobiec, thank you very much. How do people track you during the day, and how can they find more about you on One American News? You're the top correspondent over there in a field of great correspondence.
Oh, thank you. And of course, you can always find me there as well as Twitter at Jack Posobiec, JackPosobiec.
Jack Posobiec, thank you very much. So Raheem, what are your thoughts on being shut down again by Twitter? Is there anything you said right there deserves to be shut down?
Have a quiet Friday, I suppose.
Seriously, on Sullivan, how can Sullivan still be up? His account still be up, and they put you in the 12-hour box. You know why? Because they don't want to hear your voice for another 12 hours. And you keep doing it, they're going to pull you down permanently.
Well, I think probably, not to toot my own horn, but probably hit the nail on the head a bit too hard there with the democracy dies in darkness thing, right? Turned out not to be a warning from the Washington Post, but a playbook, right? That's exactly what happened, and that's exactly what they didn't want people recognizing.
The color revolution. Give me that thing about submission before we go to break. What was it?
Look, it's incredibly important for people who, especially the people who are demoralized out there, to recognize this is a demoralization operation, right? What's on your screens, what you're being told, what you're being fed, the tissue of lies all across social media, the deplatforming of not just people, but entire platforms is designed to make you think there is no hope and there is no chance. And Steve, the opposite of demoralization is not remoralization, but it should be remoralization, because of remoralization's definition is the reintroduction of moral values into society. And that's what's taking place right now in the live chat across the United States of America.
Okay. This is the rally point, and you are the folks that are going to rally. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with Jan, Kassam, Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon in the War Room. Full discussion on what a color revolution is and why it's what we're going through right now.
Spread the word on the road, come let's take down the CCP. The bullet's like a little longer.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Not everyone gathered here in Washington today came to celebrate President Trump's inauguration. Protesters lined part of the parade route, and in some parts of the Capitol, there were confrontations with police.
The anger reaching a boiling point in the nation's capital after President Trump took the oath of office. Police in riot gear facing off against the protesters just 6 blocks from the inaugural parade. Unleashing pepper spray, concussion grenades, all to disperse the crowd.
Burning cars and smashed windows. A small group of protesters dressed in black, their faces covered, armed with hammers and bricks. Facing off with thousands of officers on site, many in riot gear, confronting them with flashbang grenades and pepper spray. Before the swearing-in ceremony even began, protesters tried to block checkpoint entrances. During President Trump's speech, several demonstrators were escorted out of the area. Several officers injured during the protest today, and more than 100 people arrested. Tonight, thousands of protesters remain in downtown D.C., occasionally facing off with police. We have seen many people injured, both protesters and police officers.
For our podcast and radio audience, we just played, I think, a 90-second or 2-minute condensed version of what happened on President Trump's inauguration day. And the city looked like Beirut, parts of it, right? What I say is that logically 10 times worse than what happened at the Capitol, 20 times worse than what happened at the Capitol, and basically nothing happened, okay? Just like they burned this city down, they went and looted everything up in Georgetown. People were cowering in their homes up Capitol Hill. People roaming around, big gangs of people roaming around. Nothing happened. Here, your green zone. Here, it is far worse than March of 1861, when President Lincoln came to give his first inaugural address. And I think we'd had 5 or 6 states succeed, and you were about 5 weeks away from a shooting war. Right? Here, this is the green zone of Baghdad. And I want to say something about the people commenting and people doing research. You know, Bernie Carrick, 30-year history in law enforcement and the military. Raheem Kassam, you were in Kiev with the Maidan revolution. You saw it. You reported it as a young man. You've been here before. You've seen these types of revolutions before, have you not, sir?
Yeah, I absolutely have. And I was saying to myself the other day that these scenes on Capitol Hill are starting to look like what Kiev looked like during that revolution. You know, you had all these massive barriers being erected all across the city, thousands of police being deployed, thousands of military being deployed, and there were constant kind of justifications from the state at that point in time. Hey, we have credible threat this, we have credible threat that, and just slowly and surely it ratcheted up to the point where there was no ability for two sides who had very different political ideas. One wanted to be in the EU and the other side didn't want to be in the EU, basically, is what it boiled down to. They drove a wedge down the center of Ukrainian civil society to the point where there was no possibility of reconciliation between these two sides. And I truly believe that that's what we're seeing right now. And the state, in conjunction with, or at least turning a blind eye to, all of these accelerationist groups who are trying to force division and force conflict and force America to divide. We're seeing the manifestation of that in real time here in the United States of America.
And Beatty over at Revolver News, one of the formerly of Duke University, a speechwriter for the president, one of the smartest minds in this. Revolver, every day they're going through. He's the first one to walk through the whole structure of color revolutions. Jack Posobiec is a naval intelligence officer, speaks fluent Mandarin, is very schooled in what revolutions are, right? So he can deconstruct the game that's being run here. Michael, you've been out of the country half of your adult life.
Half of my life.
Half of your life. You're covering all these wars, insurrections. Give your background quickly to people.
I was in Special Forces in the Army. I went to language school, the same one that Jack went to for German. Trained to parachute into Poland for many years, never did it. Went to, as a war correspondent, I was in Iraq, Afghanistan, Philippines, Nepal, Thailand, got kicked out of Hong Kong last year, long list. So this is my office. What happened on the 6th at the Capitol is normal day at the office for me.
And you spent most of the summer in Portland. Was that where you were located?
I got there in September.
Oh, September, okay.
Right. And was there.
You were still overseas. That's right. You were in Thailand.
Right. Right. When they kicked me out of Hong Kong, I went back to my office in Thailand. I was heading over to Taiwan. Our issues kicked off here, so I came here and went straight to Portland because that's a nexus for Antifa, and began studying them and BLM and the others, and spending a lot of time with MAGA, Proud Boys, everybody, figuring out who's who in the zoo.
Tell people and tell what accelerationist groups are. What are agent provocateurs? What are clown posses? All that. I want the terminology. It's one of the things we try to do.
Right. Three main ideas to keep in mind is that clowns, agent provocateurs, and false flags are not the same, but they overlap quite a lot. So in the parlance of information warfare, psyops, a clown is somebody who comes up and pretends to be on your side, but then makes you look very bad. It says that they're going to do violent actions or does something, just makes you look bad. That's a clown, right? And so we see quite a lot of clowns out there. And then, not just clowns, but actually clowning in that parlance. Now, false flag is when you do something, for instance, Operation Gleiwitz, that you do under your enemy banner, for instance, wearing their hat, wearing their uniform, under their flag, and you generally do something to make them look bad. Now, agent provocateurs, APs, often or typically do so under a false flag, but they are not per se false flag operations. Those are separate, but they overlap quite a lot. So what we saw on the 6th was a massive false flag operation, which was facilitated by excellent APs. The agent provocateurs were expert.
Well, how did the intelligence and the law enforcement apparatus miss it so badly that people asked for the National Guard to be here? People did ask for U.S. Marshals to be here. How did the mayor of D.C. and the people on Capitol Hill, and they fired the sergeant at arms, they fired his people. How did we have a situation just, 8 or 9 days ago, we had bike racks and a couple of essentially security guards from the Capitol Police, and today we're an armed fortress?
Well, if we examine the fact pattern would indicate that they were complicit. At best, they were incredibly incompetent. But I don't buy that because the day before I published, I believe there's a 90% chance of violence. I put that in writing and published it.
Up on your blog?
I put it on Twitter,
Yeah.
and I was saying it. I'm very good at predicting violence. I'm terrible at predicting crowd sizes. But it was very clear that something was going to happen. I didn't know what.
Because the Sullivans of the world, you thought were out there and talking about this rally at 11 o'clock in the morning at the Washington Monument?
And before, I started at Washington Monument as well, and then proceeded over to the Capitol, right? It was very clear. There are some people that I have on video that appear to be, or there are very obvious Antifa cells.
Have you put all those videos up to date? Or when
No,
are you gonna...
I have not had time
Okay.
because we have been analyzing, going to bed at 2 and 3 in the morning watching these videos.
What is the wave of information they're getting? I take it at 1 o'clock today they're going to try to walk through some of this. Going to have a press conference. I think the FBI and the Joint Task Force, DOJ, is going to have to come out with something. But I want to talk about this Reuters story. If you can pull it up, and we have that in Denver. They got a headline, Raheem, about that people in this riot wanted to. And it's a filing in a arresting document, right? Reuters has got the screaming headline. It's they wanted to capture and assassinate officials.
Yep.
So you read, I'm getting in the middle of the night. I say this thing, I go, holy moly!
Yep.
What do we got here? This is serious. Now we're going to get down to it. They've got guys, and we're going to find out. I don't care about their political affiliation. When they're going to capture and assassinate officials, you got to get on top of this, and they got to be dealt with. And I read down, and it's the shamans. It's the shamans. Do we have in Denver? I also want to play the shaman video.
Yeah.
Okay, now hold it. Now I'm sitting there thinking, hey, they got the bad guys. They got a cell. We're now going to get down to the Sullivan thing's just broken overnight. Now we're getting down to it. They're on top of things because I get a headline in Reuters that says they're going to, the people in this rally. I think they actually say the pro-Trump rallies or whatever. They're going to capture and assassinate. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's play.
Hold on. We got to wait.
Okay.
We got to do this properly.
Yeah.
So the Reuters article headline is this: U.S. says Capitol rioters meant to quote capture and assassinate officials, and then it goes on. Federal prosecutors offered an ominous new assessment of last week's siege on the U.S. Capitol by President Donald Trump's supporters on Thursday, saying in a court filing that the rioters intended to quote capture and assassinate elected officials. Prosecutors offered the view in a filing, asking a judge to detain Jacob Chansley, and we'll get into that in just a second, the Arizona man and QAnon conspiracy theorist who was famously photographed wearing horns as he stood at the desk of Vice President Mike Pence in the chamber of the U.S. Senate. Let's get back to Chansley for a second. Jake Chansley, they call him in this article, actually goes by the name Jake Angeli, Jacob Anthony Angeli Chansley, also known, and I'm reading from Wikipedia here, not exactly a right-wing source, also known as the QAnon shaman, Q shaman, Yellowstone Wolf, and they talk specifically about how he says that he is an actor and voiceover artist, FYI, but they don't make any mention of the fact that just in the tail end of 2019, this guy, and we're going to hear from him in his own words in just a second, was a notorious left-wing climate change activist.
Right.
So let's play this.
Let's go to Denver and play the tape of our shaman.
I'm going to post up some video of you dancing and doing your music. Let's talk about the spiritual aspect of what you do. And you'll probably do a little bit here before we get kicked off today.
Sure. So what I do is I practice something known as shamanism. And in shamanism, they sing, they dance, they drum, and they inform the community. They dress up in a way that chases off evil spirits. The singing and the drumming is about chasing off evil spirits because sound actually precedes electromagnetic activity. So when you sing and you drum, especially when you do so really loudly, you end up affecting the quantum realm. And this has been being done for thousands of years to ward off evil spirits, ward off negative timelines, and to basically bring positive energy. So part of the reason why I dress this way is because if we were going to have like a infiltrator or something like that, they'd be a witch, they'd be a sorcerer or something like that on the dark side. So I practice life magic, I practice the light side or the positive side of shamanism, and when they see me, they go, oh, yeah, we got a big fish out here, we better not try and stir things up. Well,
it just doesn't get any better than that. It just hold it. This is what the government's got Sullivan, who's already indicted for involved in the death of a MAGA guy in Provo, Utah. He's up on CNN giving interviews, no mention of that. He's wandering around on Twitter, on Jack Dorsey's platform, threatening the President of the United States. He's got a rally point at 11 o'clock before the President gets up there to start taking people to Capitol Hill. He's an agent provocateur, and yet the charging document has got the quantum realm shaman, right? The quantum realm shaman is trying to put the stink eye on what he perceives as the witch of Nancy Pelosi, okay? This is too ridiculous. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, there are definitely some bad guys there.
Sure.
We got to find those bad guys. But don't have the headline, oh, you're going to charge this guy because he wrote notes, the shaman.
All he wanted to do was make the quantum realm great again.
We'll be back in a second.
They try to scare the nation with fabrication.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Speaker Pelosi's. I think she's down into the war room today, right? She just announced that she has asked retired Lieutenant General Honore, right, to conduct an investigation into Capitol security. The general was the guy that stepped in during Katrina, right at the end when they replaced Brownie. I think he stepped in there. He stepped in a couple of the hurricanes. A very very well known Army general. So she's asked Speaker Pelosi has asked retired Lieutenant General Honore to conduct an investigation into that, and an investigation would be good. And she said, I think it was going to be after 9/11.
Well, she said on CNN, the Cryon said that she wants it to be styled after the 9/11 Commission, and I think that's a perfect opportunity.
Yeah. Well, hang over a second. Except for what?
No, I think it's a perfect opportunity so that we have a model for which Nancy can use to do
but
it.
we don't have that model.
We don't have a model.
Exactly. Let's release the entire 9/11 Commission report so that Nancy Pelosi has a roadmap for discovery here, and this time, let's not keep it from the American people.
First off, let's go to Liz Cheney. Hey, Liz, why don't you call Daddy up? Why don't you call your dad up and say about the 40, how ugly it's going to be the 40 pages of the redacted part of the Saudi involvement in 9/11, ma'am. Let's have a 9/11. But so let's release all the information for the American people. American people are big boys and girls, right? They can handle it. Let's go. Is it 40 pages redacted they took out about the Saudi involvement?
It's been 20 years, and the United States citizens have paid, $4 or $5 trillion as a result of its findings. Let's see it.
Oh, no, but think about all of the, I mean, think about everything that people still have to live through. Airport checks, security checks, monitoring of your cell phones and everything that's come off the back of that. And we still don't know. We still don't have. So, hey, Nancy Pelosi can stand up there all she likes and talk about, hey, we need a 9/11 commission. We didn't have a 9/11 commission in the first place.
Gun deck.
Okay,
gun deck.
so when she says this, when she says we need an investigation, what she really means is we need a cover-up. That's what she means, and that's why whoever she's appointing, you can tell it's a bad choice.
Here's a question for Liz Cheney. Should your father have been impeached as vice president? Should he be impeached about all the lies we know he told? Lies? Not miscalculations. Stone cold lies. Is the vote you should have had is for your dad to be impeached. So Liz Cheney, why don't you call Daddy up and ask him, does he have in his files, I think it was 40 pages redacted that were taken out about the Saudis' direct involvement. Hey, you know who says that? The federal courts, because they're still suing each other, right? And the Saudis are trying to hide from the victims in the towers and the victims of the first responders, the brave men and women that went in there. And the Saudis doing everything they can to try to block that. It's been, 20 years? And the people still haven't gotten full restitution from the Saudis. Liz Cheney, Liz is all going to come up, right? All going to come out. It's all going to come out. Yeah, I think what we'll do is open up all the 9/11 files, and let's use that as a predicate. In the general, we want to get to all the information. So we got a couple of minutes left. Michael, tell us where you think we are in this investigation of what happened, and what could you provide?
Well, the people that I'm working with and my team, we're going over this 24/7. So we're seeing we seem to be far ahead of the investigators at the FBI and whatnot. We're able to identify cells instantly while live on the ground identifying cells, right? They should have arrested many of these people before they even got on an airplane. This was like, for instance, John Earl Sullivan. We identified him almost instantly as for instance, Arch Lady cell and Lucky Charms cell. There were and Helmet Hole Man cell. These were so obvious. They're way behind. They're way behind the ball game. These people could be out there conducting more kinetic operations.
What do you think today at 1 o'clock? What do you think they're going to step up and do? They got to cover. This has got to be part CYA, right? Because now they're embarrassed by what you guys have put out. So what do you anticipate?
More CYA. We know how they operate. They're going to stay true to form. That's my estimation, because they are what they are. An alligator behaves like an alligator.
Raheem?
Do we have that, by the way? The remember the red image that was going around the other day of people being invited to take weapons to capitals all over.
Do we have that poster in Denver? Can we put that up?
The interesting thing is we didn't put it up the other day because it was unclear of what was going. Now I think we can be very clear about where this is coming from. These guys were sharing it. John Sullivan was sharing it. He was telling people to do this. There are a whole bunch of others. By the way, we put up a whole bunch of what else he was sharing up on the National Pulse this morning. Other incitements to violence, incitements to attend these rallies and these whatever you call them, right? These kind of hijacking of different aims and different protests and merging of different things. So I want to be able to put that up. Now what I want to put up, Steve, is our new "Make the Quantum Realm Great Again" hats.
It's unbelievable.
But you know that document that they put out, that red and yellow thing, come to Washington, we're going to take
That's
back
it.
the country.
Yeah.
They always reveal themselves.
Yeah.
If it was Trump people, don't you think it'd be red, white, and blue? When it's communists,
Right.
it's red and yellow.
If we got there,
always.
put it up. By the way, Speaker Pelosi says impeachment, this is breaking news, impeachment managers are solemnly and prayerfully preparing for the Senate impeachment trial. Hey, you want an impeachment trial? Bring it. President Trump's going to be able to get with Rudy and the entire team, put all this information out there, put all the evidence out there, and he's going to have an opportunity, Nancy, because you included in page 3 of your indictment that he misled people and camaraderie this morning. He's got to come forward and say it was 100% honest. You charged him and said the predicate of this was false and misleading information about the election. Well, the president, to defend himself, is going to have, I hope, days and days and days to go through each state, and see the immaculate deception.
Just a gentle reminder that one of the impeachment managers has been sleeping with a Chinese spy.
Who's that? That Solwell and Fang Fang.
Yeah,
right?
and Louis Gohmert will get the answer to his question from a few days ago. What did Nancy Pelosi know about the preparations for the defense of the Capitol? When did she know it? Why did she ask the sergeant at arms and the House police to stand down? What did she know? We're going to dig all the way to the bottom of this, Nancy. And thank you always for playing to form and opening yourself up.
The truth will set you free. Okay, we're going to be back at 5 o'clock. What do you got on National Pulse today?
A lot.
Fine.
We're working on a lot of breaking information.
You got to
right
see
now.
National Pulse. Stay on Real America's Voice. You got the John Solomon. We're going to try to talk Michael Young and them coming back in tomorrow.
People are asking what's Michael's blog site.
What's your blog site? How do you get information?
I'm on Patreon at Michael Yon. Just look up my last name, Yankee Oscar November, YON.
He's the best. Americans, I think America's most experienced combat journalist. Andrew and I knew Michael back in 2006, 2007, and Andrew's blog site when Andrew starts putting stuff up for Michael. Fantastic. American patriot, and it's so glad that you're back in Washington, D.C. and been able to see what's going on here. Okay. See you today. National Pulse at 3.
Yep.
Come back, War Room, a pandemic for the evening show at 5 o'clock. See you then.